Good morning, Year 3. Today we are going to be reading chapter 20 of Gangsta Granny, Boom, Boom, Boom. Ben couldn't believe what Granny had just said. There was no way he would risk stealing the crown jewels only to put them back the very next night. But they are worth millions, billions even, he complained. I know, so we'd definitely get caught if we tried to sell them, replied Granny. But no buts, boy. We put them back the next night. Do you know how I evaded prison all these years? I never sold a thing. I just did it for the buzz. But you kept them, though, said Ben. Even if you didn't sell them, you've got all those jewels in your biscuit tin. Granny blinked. Yes, well, I was young and foolish then, she said. I have learned since then it is wrong to steal, and you need to understand that too. She gave him a fierce look. Ben squirmed. I do, of course I do. It's a brilliant plan you've put together, Ben. Honestly, it is. But those jewels don't belong to us, do they? No, said Ben. No, they don't. He felt a tiny bit ashamed now that he'd been so horrified at the idea of giving back the jewels. And don't forget that every policeman in the country, maybe even the world, will be looking for the crown jewels. They'll have all of Scotland Yard after us. If we were found with them, we'd be thrown into prison for the rest of our lives. That might not be so long for me, but for you it could be 70 or 80 years. You're right, said Ben. And the Queen seems like such a nice old dear. We are around the same age, actually. I would hate to upset her. Me too, murmured Ben. He had seen the Queen on the news loads of times, and she seemed like a nice old lady, smiling and waving at everybody from the back of her giant pram. Let's just do it for the thrill. Agreed? Agreed, said Ben. When can we do it? It will have to be a Friday night when Mum and Dad take me to stay at yours. Did the doctor say when you'll be out of hospital? Oh yes, he did. He said I could leave any time. Fantastic. But we need to do it very soon. How about next Friday? Isn't that too soon? Not at all. Your plan seems very well thought out, Ben. Thank you, said Ben, beaming. It was the first time ever that he felt like he had made a grown-up proud of him. When I get out of here, I'll get on to pinching the equipment we need. Now, run along, Ben, and I will see you next Friday night at the usual time. Ben pulled back the curtain. Mr. Parker, Granny's nosy neighbour, was standing right there. Startled, Ben took a couple of steps back towards the bed and quickly shoved Plumbing Weekly up the back of his jumper. What are you doing here? Asked Ben. Hoping to see me take a bed bath, no doubt, said Granny. Ben chuckled. Mr. Parker scrambled for words. No, Matron! Matron! hollered Granny. Wait, said Mr. Parker, panicking. I'm sure I heard one of you talking about the crown jewels. It was too late. The matron, who was an unusually tall lady with very big feet, clumped down the ward at speed. Yes, asked the matron. Is something the matter? This man was spying at me through the curtains, said Granny. Were you? Demanded matron, eyeballing Mr. Parker. Well, I heard that they were, whined Mr. Parker. Last week he spied on my granny doing naked yoga, offered Ben. Matron's face turned puce with horror. Get out of my ward at once, you filthy little swine, she screamed. Humiliated, Mr. Parker backed away from the terrifying matron and scuttled out of the ward. He paused at the swing doors and yelled back to Granny and Ben, You haven't seen the last of me, before rushing out. Please let me know if that man comes back, said Matron, her face returning to a more normal shade. I will, replied Granny, before Matron returned to her duties. He could have heard everything, hissed Ben. Maybe, replied Granny, but I think Matron scared him off for good. I hope so. Ben was very worried about this unfortunate development. Do you still want to go through with it? asked the old lady. Ben had that feeling you have when you are on a roller coaster and it's slowly making its way up the track. You want to get off and you want to stay on. Dread and delight all rode into one. Yes, he said. Hurrah! Said Granny, giving Ben a big smile. Ben turned to leave, then turned around. I love you, Granny, he said. And I love you too, little Benny, said Granny with a wink. Ben winced. He had a gangster granny now, and that was great, but he was going to have to teach her just to call him Ben. Ben ran along the corridors, his heart beating incredibly fast. Boom, boom, boom. He was electrified with excitement. This 11-year-old boy, who had never done anything notable in his life except once being sick on his friend's head on the big wheel at the local fun fair, was going to take part in the most daring robbery the world has ever known. He ran outside the hospital and began fumbling with the keys to unlock his bike from the railing. Then, looking up, he saw something unbelievable. It was his granny. That in itself was not unusual, but this was. Granny was abseiling down the side of the hospital. She had tied a number of bed sheets together and was lowering herself at speed down the side of the building. Ben couldn't believe his eyes. He knew his granny was a proper gangster, but this was off the scale. Granny, what on earth are you doing? Shouted Ben across the car park. The lift wasn't working, dear. See you next Friday. Don't be late, she shouted as she reached the ground, leaped on her mobility scooter and roared off. Well, whirred off home. Never had a week passed so slowly. Ben spent all week waiting for Friday to come. Every minute, every hour, every day seemed like an eternity. It was strange having to pretend he was just another ordinary boy, when really he was one of the greatest criminal masterminds of all time. Finally, Friday evening came. There was a knock on Ben's bedroom door. Rat-tat-tat. Well, are you ready, son? Said Dad. Yeah, said Ben, trying to act as innocent as possible, which is actually quite hard when you are feeling extremely guilty. You don't need to pick me up too early in the morning tomorrow. Granny and I normally play Scrabble until quite late. You won't be playing Scrabble, son, said Dad. No, no, son, you won't be going to Granny's tonight at all. Oh, no, said Ben. Is she back in hospital? No, she's not. Ben sighed with relief, then felt a prickle of anxiety. So why am I not going to her house? The plan was in place, and there was no time to lose. Because, said Dad, tonight it's the under-12 dancing championships. At last it's your big moment to shine. Okay then, so that was the end of chapter 20. I think Ben has forgotten all about his dancing championships. So, your task today then is to write a diary entry, but this time you're writing it as if you are Mr. Parker. He's writing it in that neighbourhood watch diary again. Okay, so last week we spoke about neighbourhood watch and what that is. Okay, and you wrote a diary entry last week of Mr. Parker. So today you're going to write another one because he's writing back in that diary again. So today you're going to write the next passage in his neighbourhood watch diary. Here are some questions you could answer in your diary entry, and remember that you are Mr. Parker. So some questions that you could answer: what did he overhear at the hospital? What does he think Ben and Granny are planning? And what does he plan to do next? Okay then, so let's have a look at our steps to success then. And then we can start highlighting these off when we start having a go at some together. So I can include an exclamation sentence. I can include a question sentence. I can describe my thoughts and feelings. I can write in first person using personal pronouns. I can use fronted adverbials correctly. Okay then, so because we are writing a diary, we always need to make sure that we start with Dear Diary. Okay. Right then, straight away I'm going to get my exclamation sentence in. I'm going to start my exclamation sentence with what? An interesting morning I have had, exclamation mark. Okay, so straight away I'm going to highlight off. I can include an exclamation sentence. Okay, nice and easy. Get that in for your first sentence. Right, then let's carry on. Oops. Let's just see if I can move that back over a bit. Okay, can't, so we'll just carry on. Okay, so exclamation. Yes, it's that suspicious old lady and her annoying little grandson again. They are definitely up to no good. Okay. Now I want to. Okay, I'm going to get a fronted adverbial in here. As I stood behind, and a preposition in there as well. The drab, musty smelling hospital curtain, comma, I could hear the two of them whispering about something, like they were conjuring up a plan of some sort. As I moved closer, as I moved my ear closer, fronted adverbial in there, the words crown jewels were mentioned. I am sure those two were. I am sure. No, I am sure of it. I'm just going to have a read through what I've written so far. So, dear diary, what an interesting morning I have had. Yes, it's that suspicious old lady and her annoying little grandson again. They are definitely up to no good. As I stood behind the drab, musty-smelling hospital curtain, I could hear the two of them whispering about something, like they were conjuring up a plan of some sort. As I moved my ear closer, the words crown jewels were mentioned. I am sure of it. I'm not going to put an exclamation in there actually. Why were those two talking about the world famous crown jewel? Okay, so I've got a question sentence in there as well. My last sentence. Now this isn't all of my diary entry. This is just some because I haven't spoke about what I think, so what Mr. Parker thinks they are planning, and I haven't spoken about what he plans to do next or what you plan to do next because you are Mr. Parker. Okay, so there we go. I've got in a question sentence in there right at the very end. I can describe my thoughts and feelings. Now have started doing that, but I haven't finished. So that's going to be highlighted in orange. And because I haven't finished as well, okay, I haven't completed my personal pronouns. However, I have made sure I have included some personal pronouns. Okay, making sure those personal pronouns I have been used. Okay, my, me. Okay, right then, and then lastly, I can use fronted adverbials correctly. Now I have used some fronted adverbials. going to highlight these in red just to show you. As I stood behind the drab, musty smelling hospital curtain, comma, that's your fronted adverbial there, and then I've got another one here, as I moved my ear closer, comma. Alright, so yes, I've already started including some fronted adverbials, but I haven't finished, so you need to make sure that you include some more as well. Okay, so don't forget, you are writing as if you are Mr. Parker today, and you are writing about what you have overheard in the hospital. So don't forget, you might want to go back to the scroll back through this video and listen again to the story. So, or just read the story on the screen so you can see what Mr. Parker overheard. All right, so have a brilliant day, and if you are stuck, remember to email myself or Mr. Grocott, and we will be more than happy to help you. Can't wait to read these diary entries. They were excellent the other day and last week as well. Keep up the good work, you superstars. Speak to you all tomorrow. Bye.